Welcome, everyone. Quick disclaimer, this is not financial advice. So let's jump right in.
Let me invite you today on a short excursion, following the trail of the search for pricing power among the main AI providers, especially OpenAI and Anthropic. Please don't get me wrong. I have no doubt that AI is a very powerful technology, one that will change the world, and most likely sooner and more deeply than most people today are willing to admit. I even belong to the camp that believes AI will become so good that it will take away more jobs than it creates. But that is a topic for another time. Today, pricing power. Because that is what this should really be about. At least if we have the courage to include those insane capex numbers, which, by the way, are also kind of keeping us afloat during the spending phase. It is precisely pricing power that could legitimize all those circular deals and the revaluations of private AI investments, which are behind the surprisingly strong increase in profits in the first quarter. I think the game plan is to be the first to reach something resembling AGI, thanks to which the United States will crush everyone else, and then the whole world will just pay and pay, because otherwise these numbers simply do not work for me. But in this story of AI superiority, question marks have been appearing for some time now, and interestingly enough, at the very moment when semiconductors launch themselves toward the stars. Quietly, something like Qwen 3.7 Max is starting to interfere with the story. According to all available information, it is already fully comparable with the best models, and just as a side note, it is much cheaper to run and to develop. But China is very dangerous and hostile, right? A very high percentage of US startups using open source are currently using Chinese models. So what is the reason behind the popularity of something like DeepSeek? Besides decent performance, it is mainly its low demand on overall hardware. It is not only chips that have shot into the stratosphere. Could it be that, in the end, the price of the AI service actually matters? Once the AI mania fades, I think it will mostly be about business. In other words, the price-performance ratio. China still does not have its own chip at the level of Blackwell, but on the one hand, the lower hardware demands of its models may become an advantage. And on the other hand, China is not exactly sleeping when it comes to chip development either. As a former programmer who has been living in AI since the release of GPT-4, I am convinced that the most important thing for pushing AI forward is mainly the very top of the pyramid, the most brilliant people. And logically, the largest top of that pyramid is in China and India. But even France's Mistral, models from Canada, South Korea, the United Arab Emirates, and others are not far behind. And they are focusing mainly on enterprise solutions, on business, not primarily on the big show and the medal podium in burning capex. Which somehow brings us to the absolutely phenomenal profits of big tech in the first quarter. If we skip the circular deals and postpone depreciation, we get to non-operating items. For example, the revaluation of private AI investments. What about Anthropic? Where are we now? $1.3 trillion? Can someone please explain to me in the comments where exactly the pricing power is for Anthropic that corresponds to $1.3 trillion? Dario Amodei is a legend in my book, no question about that. And I do think that company will one day make real money, not pre-IPO profit. But those mega numbers simply do not fit here. In my view, 40% of those amazing big tech profits from the first quarter are only on paper. But the second quarter will not necessarily fall behind in this spirit either, so the party can easily continue. Personally, I only see probabilities, and I would like it if, one day, this turned out to have been the right moment for Big Short 2, because for my taste, we have already pushed this way too far. Everyone keeps talking about retail leverage, call option adventures, private credit, and so on, but what about the leverage of liquidity through bond collateral and rising yields? Michael Howell talks beautifully about this. And just as a side note, he also called the Bitcoin drop quite accurately. Bitcoin being a kind of canary in the coal mine. We have been opening Hormuz for 2 months already, right? The stock market is an addiction for me, so I cannot resist one final tip. Maybe nobody really controls the world, but I still have this feeling now that this bubble was predestined to run all the way into the vacuum cleaner called the big IPO, a kind of black hole for financial market liquidity. As if the honor of paying the bill has once again been won by retail. Nevertheless, this bubble will not go down without me, because I have already been bleeding slightly for 2 weeks on a small short in semiconductors. This is in no way investment advice. I just like the stock market and something resembling humor. Enjoy the ride, and don't pick up the margin call.
Enjoyed the video? Like and subscribe. If not, hit subscribe anyway and be as happy as possible.